evaluation plays a really important role in TAACCCT, and it really is going to help us document the successful strategies that you're going to be implementing, and also to talk about the challenges with the TAACCCT work. It's also going to help us build the evidence on community colleges and TAACCCT. So, you know, there are 4 rounds of TAACCCT grants. You're the part of the 4th round. Some of you might even been involved in previous rounds. And DOL itself, we're conducting an evaluation of TAACCCT. So through all of that work and your third-party evaluations, our evaluations, we are generating over 200 evaluations of TAACCCT. I mean, let's just take a step back. That is just so much, right? 200 evaluations of TAACCCT. This is a huge body of knowledge that will be incredibly useful. So, you know, it's going to be useful to you as practitioners and community colleges. It's going to be useful to policymakers, to the Department of Labor, to Congress. You know, they were the one that authorized TAACCCT and gave us money for TAACCCT, and just many other stakeholders. So other members of our evaluation team are here today to help you walk through the DOL evaluation of TAACCCT Round 4. We've got Karen Gardner with Apt Associates, and we've got Lauren Eister here with the Urban Institute. You'll be hearing from all of us, and we'll be sharing information with you about, again, about your requirements and your involvement with TAACCCT evaluation, and then also what we're going to be doing as evaluators. And before we get started, just want to see if Robin wanted to say a few words, because she did kick us off, but it sounds like we were having some sound issues. So Robin, did you want to do your spiel again so everyone can get a chance to hear from you?
Oh, I think that's fine. I just wanted to welcome everyone and echo what Erica has said. We're just excited about you being on board as our Round 4 grants and being part of the larger TAACCCT community. We wanted to have this webinar early on in your grant period so that you understand what the requirements are for evaluation and what resources are available for technical assistance. So I think we're here today with the evaluation team to answer questions, and hope this is beneficial for you.
Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over the agenda for today. So first we'll go a little bit more detail into who the TAACCCT Round 4 evaluation team is. Then we'll address the key components of our Round 4 evaluation. This will include an impact study and the national evaluation. Many of you, especially if you were involved in previous rounds, would have heard, know a little bit about what's going on with the national evaluation, and we'll go over all of that. And then, of course, most important to and relevant to your work, your direct work, is the third-party evaluations. So we'll go over, the SGA language and what that means. We'll break it down to what that means and what you're required to do. And then, so we're going to try, our goal is to get through our presentation in about 40 minutes, and then that will leave us plenty of time for questions and answers while we're talking. So you are all muted, but you will be able to hear from me, from all of us. And we are recording this so that if you or your colleagues want to listen to it again or weren't able to participate, you will be able to do that. And we're also going to be posting the slides that'll all be on the Workforce 3.1 TAACCCT Community of Practice. We'll also be talking to you later on about how you sign up for the our evaluation community of practice and give you information for that. It'll be there as well. So while we're going through, if you have any questions, feel free to post your questions in the question box function at the bottom right-hand portion of the screen. So we won't be, just so we can get through all the information, we won't be taking questions throughout the presentation or through the audio function. But what we'll do is wrap up within 40 minutes, and then we'll kind of put you on mute for a little bit, get a little bit organized, and then we'll just jump right into your questions and go through as many questions as we can. And we might even stay on a few minutes extra just to make sure we get all your questions. We hope that, again, if you aren't able to stay the whole time or your colleagues weren't able to join us, again, we'll be recording this. So one last housekeeping note, and we are posting this information in the box, on your webinar notes. So if you have any technical difficulties during today's webinar, you can contact Siobhan Mills. She's from the evaluation team, and she's standing by to assist you with any questions or technical difficulties you have. Now, her number is going to be posted on the screen for you, but her phone number, if you want to write this down, just in case you have any problems, it's 301-968-4405. And again, that's Siobhan Mills. Any technical issues, go ahead, give her a call, 301-968-4405. And again, that's on your computer screen. So, okay. So now we're going to introduce the TAACCCT evaluation team for round 4. Again, my name's Erica Lillydahl, and I work in the Chief Evaluation Office at the Department of Labor. We work very closely with ETA, who's managing your grants. I'm the Federal Project Officer for the TAACCCT evaluations for all rounds, and certainly we'll be working on round 4. Very excited to get started with you all and with the evaluation team. I'm also joined here with Karen Gardner, the Department of Labor, in order to conduct an independent and the most rigorous evaluation possible for round 4. We have contracted the work out, and so Apt Associates was awarded that contract through a competitive process, and they have, Karen Gardner again is here with us. She's the project director. You'll be hearing from her in a second. And they have also teamed up with the Urban Institute, bringing in their long-standing experience working with the previous rounds of TAACCCT, so we're kind of leveraging and building on that work. They're going to be well, Lauren will go into it more detail, but they're going to be focusing on supporting you all as your third-party evaluators and the implementation analysis. And then I'll let Karen speak. There's a couple other partners that are working with us together. Karen, Lauren, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, I'm Karen Gardner. I'm very pleased to meet all of you via webinar, and I promise I don't normally sound like this, but it's that time of year. I'm looking forward to meeting via phone or in person soon, but as Erica said, Apt is the prime contractor, and I am a principal associate at Apt Associates. I'm the project director for this evaluation, and we are partnering with Urban Institute. In a minute, I'll pass the baton to Lauren Eister, who's I think who many of you know from previous rounds of TAACCCT grants. She is a co-principal investigator. Although he doesn't have a speaking role, our other co-principal investigator, Dave Judkins, is here as well. I will be saying a few words in a few minutes about the impact study, and then Lauren will be talking about the other national evaluation activities. But before I pass on to Lauren, our other key partners on this study are George Washington University, the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago, and Capital Research Corporation here in Washington, D.C.
Just wanted to introduce myself quickly before we move ahead. This is Lauren Eister of the Urban Institute, and I'm really happy to be speaking with you all today. And I'm sure there's some familiar names, and when we see each other in person, familiar faces. And I really look forward to working with you all on the national evaluation again, and as well, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, providing support to your third-party evaluations.
Great. Okay, so this slide is sort of to help you get sort of a descriptive picture of what's going on with the evaluations and all the different rounds of grants. So as we mentioned earlier, you know, you are part of round 4 of the TAACCCT grants, but really when you become a grant recipient of TAACCCT, you're not just a part of your round, you're part of the whole TAACCCT community. And so, you know, we've got 4 rounds of grants, and a lot of money has been given out in each round, and you can see, you know, how many grants are in each round. So the national evaluation, all the evaluation work we're doing at the departmental level is encompassing of all rounds. And so we are doing an implementation study for all 4 rounds of grants. And you will hear more details about what that means, what that entails, and what that looks like for you from Lauren in a little bit. We also, you know, we've had 4 rounds of grants, and, you know, Congress is very excited about hearing, you know, how it's going and what we're doing and what evidence we're building, and OMB as well. And so they've really been putting a lot of pressure on us, and we have all agreed to do an impact study, an experimental net impact study for round 4 to really show what kind of impact we're having with the TAACCCT grants. So you'll be hearing from Karen Gardner more about what that looks like and the details around that. And then as you got your TAACCCT grant, you know, in the SGA on pages, pages 76 through 80, if you wanted to reference your SGA, it's section VD. So it talked about how when you got a grant, you know, you were also signing up to do some evaluation components. You agreed to have a third-party evaluator, procure a third-party evaluator, and do that, and then you also agreed to participate in the Department of Labor's evaluation activities. And so that's really the point of this webinar, is to let you know what it is that all of that entails. So, so again, the evaluation work we're doing includes all rounds. For the implementation analysis, the impact study is focusing on round 4. And then rounds 2, 3, and 4, you are all required to have a third-party evaluator. I do want to note that some round 1 grantees on their own have done some third-party evaluations, and so we're certainly including them in the fold and giving them support as well. But you know, rounds 2, 3, and 4 are required to do a third-party evaluation. And again, we'll be talking about what that means and what your requirements are for that. Okay, for the next slide, we're going to talk about, you know, the Department of Labor and sort of like our approach to evaluating TAACCCT Round 4. So we're really coming at it from multiple different perspectives and approaches, and we really want to build on and leverage all of the work we're already doing in the previous rounds to continue to build a body of evidence and to document the important work that you're doing. So as this is the 4th and potentially final round, you know, that remains to be seen, but of TAACCCT grants, there are heightened expectations with respect to evaluation accountability. From both the government and from the public and from Congress. And so for those of you that may have participated in prior TAACCCT rounds, maybe even still involved with other TAACCCT rounds, the round 4 evaluation will be a little bit different, and there'll be a lot of similarities, but a little bit different because we're going to have a particular emphasis on executing rigorous evaluation to provide really strong, credible evidence of the TAACCCT grant's effectiveness. So one way that we're going to be doing that is through an experimental net impact study. And Karen's going to be going over that in more detail and what that looks like. The national evaluation, when we say national evaluation, we mean we're really leveraging kind of the round 1 through 3 work. We are doing an implementation analysis that's very similar to the work we're already doing with rounds 1 through 3, and Lauren will be detailing that in a minute. And we're also going to be continuing to support the third-party evaluations through that work. So we'll be, you know, we'll be reviewing your third-party evaluations. We'll be, you know, kind of doing a systematic review of that. We'll be talking about that more. We're also going to be relying on we expect you to rely on the expertise of your third-party evaluators as you design and execute these evaluations with the highest degree of rigor feasible. And then we'll also talk in a minute about how we're supporting you and your third-party evaluators in that work. So now we're going to get into the details. That was sort of an overview of where we're heading. I'm going to now hand it over to Karen Gardner, and she's going to talk about the impact study.
All right. Thank you, Erica. So today I'm going to give you a high-level overview of the impact study. If you are one of the grantees selected to be part of the impact study, you'll be hearing a lot more from us and learning a lot more about the parameters of the study. But as Erica noted, this is a new aspect for this round of TAACCCT, the TAACCCT evaluation, and it will ultimately answer a key question, and that is what impacts were achieved by participants of the TAACCCT Round 4 training programs. We will focus specifically on training and employment outcomes of the participants in TAACCCT-funded services, and we'll employ a design that answers this question as accurately as possible. So for a quick overview, the study will involve a subset of grantees and an experimental design. In terms of a subset of grantees, as much as we would like to include all 71 of you in the impact study, the logistics and budget issues preclude us from doing so. So we are currently getting acquainted with all 71 round 4 grantees in terms of learning more about your occupational focus, your proposed intervention, the target population, and your size, including the number of colleges involved, your geographic location of services, and the number of participants that you expect to serve. We'll likely include a combination of what we think of as single institution or freestanding college grantees and some consortia. This will be determined as we get to know more about all of the services you're planning to provide and the specifics of your grants. In terms of the study design, the impact study will use an experimental design in which eligible participants are assigned at random either to a group that receives services that were developed under the grant. Those of you who have been involved in impact studies before know that this is generally referred to as a treatment group, or to a group that does not but can receive other services available either through the grantee or in the community, and we like to call this the control group. I do want to stress that we are not proposing a no service control group. The evaluation team in the months to come will be gathering information through grant application reviews and conversations with you about the types of services that might be available to the control group, and we like to refer to that as generally the counterfactual. So if you hear me talking about the counterfactual, that's what I'm talking about. So you might be asking why a random assignment or an experimental design study. We get this question a lot when we're involved in studies of grant programs. And somebody might ask, well, why not a comparison group study, for instance, something that isn't, so difficult to implement. Simply put, random assignment is the gold standard for program evaluation. It's the one design that can attribute changes in participant outcomes to the funded intervention as opposed to something else. As I noted a minute ago, each participating grantee would assign individuals that meet eligibility requirements to one of two groups, either a treatment group that accesses the program service or a control group that doesn't but could access other services in the community. Random assignment ensures that the characteristics of these groups have no systematic, that is non-random differences at baseline. So factors that we might expect to influence participant outcomes, such as age, educational background, or work experience, are equally distributed across the two groups. I mean, going back and thinking about, for example, a comparison group study where we would compare, say, your college, or the services provided through the grant by your college to another college in a different county or in a different state. If we found positive effects on credentials or employment, we wouldn't be able to attribute them only to the program. They could be due to differences in the economy or the types of students who are seeking services. And this is why we like the experimental design, because impacts measured in this way have a great deal of credibility among policymakers and funders. They answer the question, what would have happened in the absence of the program? And at a time of scarce resources, studies like this provide information on program effectiveness. They can help build the base of evidence. They can help determine or influence future funding decisions. A few final notes on the impact study before I pass the baton to Lauren. Grantees that participate in the impact study will still need to have a third-party evaluation. The evaluation team will work with the third-party evaluators to coordinate across activities, reduce burden on grantees to the extent possible, and ensure that the impact study and the third-party evaluation complement each other. And then the evaluation team will also provide technical assistance to the grantees involved in the impact study around recruitment strategies and random assignment procedures. For example, we'll develop manuals, train staff on procedures. We'll provide lots and lots of technical assistance and hand-holding. So anyways, with that, I will pass it to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Karen.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the other national evaluation activities. And again, some of you may be familiar with the research questions and design and some of the efforts we have provided in the past to support third-party evaluators. What I'm going to talk about right now is the national evaluation where we will look across all of the grants in round 4 and building on rounds 1 through 3 grants and what we've learned and are learning through our evaluation efforts to provide a national picture of the grant activities and understand what they've accomplished, how they've implemented these activities. And to guide the data collection and analysis for this component of our effort, we offer 4 main research questions. What service delivery and or systems reform innovations resulted in improved impacts for participants? Under what conditions can these innovations most effectively be replicated? What are the types of emerging ideas for service delivery change and or systems reform that seem most promising for future research? And what directions for future research on the country's public workforce system and workforce development in general were learned? And as you can see, this is all linked to what will be learned in the impact study, certainly with the previous rounds, and really be able to provide a full picture of the grant activities as well as be able to guide and support the Department of Labor and others looking to do similar efforts in the future. To answer these questions, the National Evaluation Team will undertake to collect and analyze data and information from the grantees, the colleges involved in the grant activities, and the third-party evaluations. One activity we'll conduct throughout the grants is to review key grant documents, starting with the grant applications, and enter the information into a database so we can provide basic information on all of the grants throughout the national evaluation. And this will be helpful in the reports we write, but also in supporting the Department of Labor's efforts to understand what evaluation activities are occurring. We will also conduct in-depth site visits with a subset of grantees to understand the range of activities conducted and how they were implemented. We will also conduct an online survey of all of the TAACCCT colleges, so not just the lead grantee, but all of the colleges involved, the partners, and if you have a consortium, the members of that consortium, to collect standardized information on grant activities, again to support the development of a national picture of the TAACCCT grants. We will also synthesize the findings from the third-party evaluations, especially focusing on the most rigorous evaluation designs possible to present the most compelling evidence of the strength of the innovations implemented to accomplish their goals. Throughout the grants, DOL and the National Evaluation will provide activities that help grantees and third-party evaluators decide on the best ways to develop the most rigorous evidence possible through their third-party evaluations. We will discuss these activities in more detail shortly. Now I'll turn it back over to Erica to discuss the third-party evaluations in more detail.
Great. So we mentioned earlier that the current requirements for your participating in the evaluation is in Section VG. So now we're just going to, in addition to your participating in the evaluation activities we just discussed, we're now going to dive into what is expected for you for your third-party evaluations. So you can use up to 10% of your budgets to do a third-party evaluation, and the requirements for the third-party evaluations is that they must include an impact and outcomes analysis on participants' educational employment outcomes and impacts, and the third-party evaluation must also include an implementation analysis to document and assess the grant activities. The implementation analysis should really focus on program improvement and assessing fidelity to the model, and should also be used to document the full implementation of your grant activities and overall promising strategies and challenges of the intervention. Just as a reminder, so the national evaluation is going to be providing the comprehensive picture of capacity building and system change implemented by grantees kind of across the board and all of the grants, whereas your third-party evaluations are designed to examine the effects of the grant activities and participants at your grant and assessing your grant activities. So this next slide is just to sort of remind you of the different design types that are available for an impact outcomes analysis, and just to explain to you kind of what you're required to do in terms of and think through as you're selecting design and just, explaining to us what your design is. So, you know, as we've mentioned with the impact study, which is the method we're using for the impact study, an experimental design using random assignment is the strongest evidence out there. It is the gold standard of evaluation, and it's going to be able to give you net impacts so that you can tell people with the results, you know, that that the impacts are attributed to that intervention. So it's the strongest possible strength of evidence to use for evaluation designs. The next, well, let me say this. So we do encourage the most rigorous designs feasible given your program model and target population. If an experimental analysis is not feasible for your third-party evaluation, that really is okay, but you must provide a rationale and justify how an alternative method selected for your third-party evaluation is the most rigorous evaluation method feasible. So a next potential method that you could use if you can't do experimental is a quasi, sometimes people call it quasi-experimental, or some people call it non-experimental design using a comparison group. And this does provide moderate evidence, and we really do encourage you. So there's different ways to do, there's a lot of different ways and different arguments about what the best way is to do a non-experimental or a quasi-experimental design. We really want to encourage you to make sure that you're pushing your third-party evaluators to use the strongest quasi-experimental designs possible, because the stronger and more rigorous the quasi-experimental design, it'll play a really strong role in helping to build evidence on your evaluation, the evaluation of your grant. So the quality and rigor of your third-party evaluations, the people you're selecting to conduct these evaluations, is critically important, and so we are going to go over some tips and guidelines for you to help you do that. Because really this is about, you know, if you're spending your own grant money and spending the public's money, Department of Labor's money on doing these evaluations, you know, you really want to make sure you're getting a quality product and a rigorous evidence. So the next slide is kind of some tips to help you with your third-party evaluations and procuring a third-party evaluator. So you really want to look for an experienced evaluator that has knowledge and experience and the capacity to design and carry out your evaluation. And, you know, you'll want to share with them kind of all the different requirements, you know, even reference the SGA in your RFP so that they see what their requirements are. Even reference these materials. We're going to be posting this PowerPoint and the recording, so, you know, let them see what's required. It's reasonable to expect that potential bidders will have experience in implementation analysis. You want them to have senior staff or with graduate or postgraduate degrees that can, you know, have experience doing implementation and impact analysis. You know, you want them to be able to handle data collection and the data analysis and good report writing, and any other specialized knowledge or, you know, an experience working in the context of your intervention that you're proposing. So, you know, when you're procuring your evaluator, you know, OMB does have a circular of things you need to keep in mind about making sure that procuring your third-party evaluator is done in a competitive nature. If you have any questions about that, you know, the grant officer will be happy, and you can email TAACCCT at the TAACCCT web email address, sorry, to ask any questions you have on that. But just to kind of reiterate, so like, you know, we just want to make sure that you know, you're in line with your organizational, local, state, and federal rules regarding procurement. You know, we haven't put out any specific extra things related to procuring a third-party evaluator in addition to those. And your RFP should include as much detail as possible about the planned intervention and preliminary evaluation plans, the expected timeline and evaluation requirements, because this will just inform them, the more information they have on what you're expecting, what DOL is expecting, what your intervention is planned, the better, the stronger the proposals you're going to get back will be, and you'll be able to make a more informed decision on selecting a quality evaluator. And, you know, I'm just saying that based on the same, I mean, we have to go through that at the Department of Labor. It's the same experience we have to go through, and the more information in the statements of work, the RFPs, so the better proposals you'll get. So the next slide, you know, we have put together some tips for you in addition to what we've just discussed on procuring a third-party evaluator. It's on the TAACCCT Community of Practice, and we also, another one, we like to leverage resources whenever possible, and for evaluation of the Workforce Innovation Fund, a toolkit was developed on evaluations, and that will be really helpful for you also in developing and procuring a third-party evaluation. Okay, so really quickly, so here is the timeline for you in terms of your third-party evaluation plans. As a part of your application process, you are required to submit a 5-page summary evaluation plan. We are in the process right now of reviewing all of your applications, including your summary evaluation plans. We're working through those 71 plans, and then we will be, we're reading each one with you know, with respect to the requirements and also with respect to the designs you're proposing. And so we will be developing feedback for you, not only to help make sure you're going to be meeting the requirements, but also if you're proposing a certain design, we'll be providing some feedback on those as specifics to those as well. The feedback, you'll be getting that. That will be emailed out to you by February 13th, 2015. And then you need to procure a third-party evaluator, and then you must rely on that third-party evaluator's expertise to develop the detailed evaluation plan. And those detailed evaluation plans are due on May 15th, 2015. We will, anyone that turns in an evaluation plan on time will get their feedback by August 2015. If you do get in your plan late, we can't, you know, we're going to review all the ones that were submitted on time first. If you are late, we do require that you submit us at least an email saying, sorry, I know I'm late, but I will get it to you by this date, because it does help us for planning purposes. And also, we do want to get you feedback as soon as possible, but if you turned it in late, it's, you know, we just have to wait and review that after all the ones were submitted on time. So that's just a plug for definitely planning and letting us know. And then third-party evaluations, we're going to go over quickly what we're looking for. We are going to have a more detailed conversation and webinar on detailed evaluation plans in March, but here's just a kind of a quick overview about detailed evaluation plans from Lauren.
All right. Well, this is just a great time to introduce the detailed evaluation plans. We will definitely be giving you all a lot more information about what is expected in that full plan. We will have a webinar in March, which I'll mention again in a second. But, you know, we just wanted to help you think about the detailed evaluation plan as a roadmap for your evaluation throughout your grant. So knowing what you want to learn from it, both from the impact analysis and the implementation analysis. And this roadmap will be for your entire grant effort, not one for each member of your consortium. We know there's a lot of different activities going on, but it's only one plan and one evaluation required per grant. In developing your detailed evaluation plan, you must rely on the expertise of your third-party evaluator to ensure this plan is of the highest quality and is feasible to do. This is essential for developing your third-party evaluation detailed plan. And the plan should include your plans for developing at least one interim evaluation report and a final evaluation report as required in the SGA. So you will want to put dates in there, what you might include in those reports, and we'll again provide you a little bit more information about that during our March webinar. So the evaluation team will host this webinar for the grantees and their third-party evaluators that are on board already to provide guidance regarding the detailed evaluation plan. And this will happen in early March. We'll be sending out an announcement ahead of time so you can get that on your calendars. And ahead of time, we will also provide a guidance document on developing your detailed evaluation plan. So we'll have a lot about how we'd like you to structure that, a lot of the content we'd like you to include, and some tips for ensuring that it is of the highest quality and what we're expecting. And so we'll share that prior to the March webinar, and we'll go through that thoroughly during that time, and you'll be able to ask questions during that webinar, but also afterwards as well. So I just wanted to take a second here to talk about the types of support activities we will be providing throughout the grant to you and your third-party evaluators. We will be housing evaluation resources on a new website. Some of you may be familiar with some of the work we've done previously, but we're going to put it all together in one website so you all can access it, the evaluation resources there. There's also things on the TAACCCT Community of Practice you can access as well, but we'll make sure that is one place that you can find information about the third-party evaluations. We will also be holding virtual roundtables to provide peer learning opportunities for smaller groups of third-party evaluators. This is a way to have a little more interactive discussion on particular topics of interest to the third-party evaluators. And we'll be announcing that ahead of time, especially through different emails and newsletters that we send during this time. Webinars will happen on a semi-annual basis, and these will be some broader evaluation topics. We'll have experts in to discuss some of the issues that might be helpful to you. We also have done previous webinars on topics, and we'll be able to post those recordings for you all to access, as well as your third-party evaluators. So I'm going to turn it back over to Karen, who's going to talk about some of the upcoming evaluation activities.
Okay, very briefly, so we can leave plenty of time for questions. So over the next few months, the evaluation team will be gathering information about the Round 4 grantees with an eye towards identifying potential impact study candidates. So we will be reviewing grantee applications to identify candidates looking specifically at your target population and the proposed number of individuals you'll serve, the types of activities and services that will be funded by the grant, the geographic location of the service providers, for example, is it statewide, multi-state, and the enrollment periods. That is, when do you expect to serve most of your participants, and how does that align with the implementation of grant-funded activities? So after reviewing the grant applications, we will recommend making clarification calls to a subset of grantees, and we'll do this to learn more about proposed activities and timelines. We'll start making those calls hopefully this month and conclude them in February. And once we've conducted our clarification calls, we will recommend to DOL a short list of grantees for one-day site visits. And the purpose of these visits is to further understand what the funded activities will be, the potential counterfactual or the control group services, and we also want to determine if you would be a good candidate for the impact study. During that time, we'll also be learning more about where things stand with your third-party evaluator and what those activities will be. So we ultimately expect to have 5 grantees in the impact study. We hope to have them selected by summer. And with that, I turn it back to you, Erica.
Great. So our final slide, and then we'll go into our questions, is on a continuation of the upcoming evaluation activities. So we put together kind of in one place what the next step for you all is. So as a reminder, mid-February, February 13th, you'll start to get, begin emailing out all of you the feedback on your summary plans. So you want to take a look at that feedback. You're also going to want to, start your procurement of your third-party evaluators. Also, we, as Karen mentioned, we will be reaching out to folks to conduct some clarification phone calls. We're almost done reviewing all of your applications. And then you'll also want to participate in any calls or webinars that we plan with the evaluation team. There's certainly going to be a March webinar, which we haven't set the date for yet, but that's going to be kind of a tutorial on, and helpful hints on putting together a detailed evaluation plan that will also be accompanied with a worksheet, not a worksheet, sorry, a technical assistance document to help you on looking for what is in a solid detailed evaluation plan and how you make sure that you meet all the SGA requirements for a detailed evaluation plan. You'll also just want to reiterate you will be relying on the expertise of a third-party evaluator to prepare the detailed evaluation plans that are due May 15th. And please, just stay tuned from us for more information on from the evaluation team, from us on how we're going to help you support your third-party evaluators. And if you have any questions related to evaluation topics, you can send us an email at taaceval@urban.org. So, we did mention earlier ACC is the lead for the round 4 evaluation work. However, we already had an evaluation email in place for rounds 1 through 3, and since Urban is a partner on the round 4 evaluation work, we decided to just coordinate all that together. And so no matter what round you're involved in, you just have to remember one email for evaluation. That's taaceval@urban.org. We work really closely with ETA, and so, definitely if it's related to your grant requirements, or something for your FPO, certainly you'll be contacting your FPO directly, copying the TAACCCT email box, and contacting ETA for grant requirement related questions to TAACCCT. But if for some reason you're confused or want to copy all of them, go ahead and we'll, if we get any questions there for your TA, we'll just forward them along, and vice versa. They're great about forwarding to us evaluation stuff. So don't worry too much about that, but definitely just make a note of that. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of questions coming in. We're just going to put you on mute for 1 minute to just get a little bit organized, and then we'll just start striking away at your questions. Okay, we're back. So we're going to start jumping into your questions. So the first one is from Karen Gardner is going to address, and the question is?
When will we know if our college will be part of the impact evaluation? So we hope to have all of our clarification calls and site visits and recommendations wrapped up by late spring, early summer.
And then we'll be letting you know that you've won the lottery and been selected for the impact evaluation.
Early summer, yes.
So the next question is, will grantees be provided with the survey topics and questions that will be asked of all grantees so that we are all aware of the target directions DOL will be evaluating? This is a great question. And so first I want to clarify, it does say will be asked of all grantees. So just to remind you, we're actually having all the colleges. Any college involved in TAACCCT will be doing the survey. So a grant might include 19 colleges, it might include 2 colleges. So all of the colleges will be filling out this survey, and we worked very closely with ETA and others to make sure that we're getting out of the implementation analysis out of this survey what ETA is looking for, what the Hill is looking for, and so it's a very strategic survey and very comprehensive. So we're currently in OMB clearance. If you know what that is, good for you. If you don't worry about it. It's a very stressful process that all federal evaluations have to go through in order, and even performance related to go through before we can actually reach out to anyone to ask questions. So we're in the midst of that. Once we get approval, and we will be posting the survey on the TAACCCT Community of Practice and on the evaluation site so that you can see what's coming. But when you get the survey, it will be a web-based survey. And you'll be able to save as you're going and get back to it and all that, or have multiple people work on it and things like that. I think, okay, so the next question is, for grants that developed quasi-experimental evaluation designs using propensity score matching, it seems as though it would be quite a challenge to now impose experimental random assignments. Any comments? So I guess I have a couple thoughts. One is, you know, certainly if this was like a previous round and you're already like full-fledged in going, that's one thing. Also, if you're around 4 and you're currently designing your evaluation plan, I still give the same answer, but I'm wondering if this was a previous grant involved in, or whether this is coming from a previous grant that's now involved in a round 4 grant. But regardless, you know, your third-party evaluation designs are incredibly important, and, you know, we are not going to be messing with, you know, we are expecting you to propose the most rigorous designs possible, and we're not going to be, you know, messing with that. And so we'll be, as we're, you know, reviewing your applications and conducting clarification phone calls, reviewing your evaluation plans, we're going to be very mindful of the plans that you have in place. You know, we certainly had that issue at DOL. Well, we have, you know, DOL has tons of evaluations, and HHS might be working even with the same cities or grants, and so we certainly don't want to be cross-contaminating comparison groups or control groups, and like, you know, we're going to be very mindful of that. So that will be part of the conversations that we're having with you as we're selecting our impact sites. So let's see, another question we have, we've been joined by our Chief Evaluation Officer for the Department of Labor, Demetra Nightingale, and she's going to take one of the questions.
Thank you very much. Again, we're really glad to have all of the all the evaluations that are being done, and we look forward to hearing what the grantees are planning to do. The question is DOL or the evaluation partner prepared to assist grantees with the timely collection of UI wage and employment data? Those of you who either operate programs or evaluate programs and provide support know how important the outcomes are, and the 2 major outcomes that are in a lot of the evaluations of employment and training programs are earnings and wages and employment. And the most typical source of the data come from the quarterly earnings records that employers submit to state unemployment insurance agencies to eventually, if necessary, determine whether they're eligible for unemployment insurance. Those quarterly records have become sort of the norm for evaluations of the type that we're talking. Yes, we will try to help. Those of you who've attempted to get quarterly earnings data before know maybe that in some states it's fairly easy to get that data. In other states it's almost impossible to get it. The Labor Department might be able to help with particular states. Previous rounds of TAACCCT grantees and other Department of Labor and HHS grantees have also been able to obtain the quarterly earnings data, so we may be able to do some peer-to-peer technical assistance on within the state where you are on the smoothing the procedure and the availability of getting the data that you need. To the extent that we can help do that, we will. And as the evaluation teams here are reviewing all of the evaluation plans that you submitted with your grant applications, we will get back to the group as a whole. It may be that we might want to have a special technical assistance roundtable on access to earnings data if possible. I also want to just say that at the national level, not only here at the Labor Department, but at OMB, the White House, and HHS, FNS, the Food and Nutrition Service with the SNAP program, and the Department of Education, we're all working really hard to improve the access to quarterly earnings data, especially for evaluation and performance analysis. So hopefully over time it'll become easier. But the short answer to this is that yes, we will try to help, and we'll also try to connect you with others that have succeeded in getting the earnings data in states that you're working with.
Okay, so the next questions are, should we include the possibility of being part of the impact study in our RFP? This is actually a really great question. So that's a great idea. So just as we did in the statement of work, we let you know that, the SGA, as you were applying to be part of the grants, we did let you know that you would need to take into consideration the national evaluation, potentially being selected for the impact study, and doing third-party evaluations. That might be a good idea for your, as you're procuring a third-party evaluator, just to, at least throw a sentence or a paragraph in there about, how your grant might be selected for an impact study, and so therefore the third-party evaluator, if you're selected, would be required to communicate, coordinate with the national evaluation. That's a good idea, just to give them a heads up that might be a consideration. So the other question that we came in was, are individual colleges required to hire a third-party evaluator? Okay, so I'm glad you asked this so that we can clarify. So each grant, so there's individual grants and then there's consortium grants, is required to have a third-party evaluation. So it's not every college, it's the grant as a whole that needs to procure a third-party evaluation and can use up to 10% of the whole budget for that grant. Robin, did you want to add anything on that, or that's?
No, that's accurate.
Yeah. So this question, I like this question. So this is, do you think procurement times are realistic? Well, as someone that's responsible for procuring the contracts for evaluations myself, things can go really, really well. And then things can go be very, very difficult. And you can jump into some bumps with different procurement rules and all kinds of stuff. You just kind of never know. So, we know that. And we really want you, like with any of procurement, you really need to get started right away. You really do. Get those wheels turning. So we totally understand, and we want you to do your best efforts to get those detailed evaluation plans that rely on the expertise of a third-party evaluator in by May 15th. If that can't happen, that's just, that is a reality that we're willing to work with you on. We have been very flexible. You can ask any previous round of grant about working with you on your procurement deadlines. And so all that we really ask is that you're constantly communicating, like with your FPO, with us, so that we know what's going on. Because it will be a problem if May 15th rolls around, we haven't heard anything from you, your FPO doesn't know what's going on, and you need to get that third-party evaluator in place as a part of your grant requirement. So, just make your best efforts, but I totally understand if I get an email from you on May 15th that says, guess what, the state procurement process is taking longer than we thought. We're going to be a month out and getting this to you. That's fine, but then I know and can know to expect it and align our resources to be able to get you feedback as soon as possible. Okay. Our evaluation plan includes an internal evaluator and an external third-party evaluator. Will the resources be available to the third-party evaluator be open to grant staff as well as third-party evaluators? Okay, I'm really glad you asked this question because I do want to clarify. So it is a requirement that the evaluation conducted for TAACCCT Round 4 is conducted by an independent third-party evaluator. So I'm going to assume that, some of the previous other rounds have brought in someone to help with performance or other things. So I'm assuming that what you mean by your internal evaluator for this round, that you're saying, oh, they're going to help out with getting your data together, getting your performance, and they'll be a great contact for your third-party evaluator. But just, you got to be really careful in order to meet this requirement, be really sure that that internal evaluator is not a part of the conducting of the third-party evaluation. So with that said, the audience that we are going to be giving our evaluation support to is the third-party evaluators. There are things that we are going to, for example, we'll probably have one on comparison groups because that's the thing with selecting a comparison group. That's something that all the different rounds really wanted to have a round table on it and hear from other grants about what they're doing. We'll probably do that. And it just probably is not a good use of you as a grant person to sit in on that. It's so technical that it's really geared towards the third-party evaluators. However, the detailed evaluation plan webinar that we're going to have in March, you absolutely, as a grant staff, want to be at that webinar because that's going to help you understand what you want your expectations to be when you get in those evaluation reports. So, we're really good about, clarifying, oh, you want to attend this, or, oh, this is for, this is for grants, this is for FPOs, this is for grants and FPOs, this is for everyone, this is just for third-party evaluators. We're pretty good at that, but certainly if you ever have any questions or need clarification, just let us know. Okay, let's see. We've got, Karen's got one. So is there somewhere that we can download the PowerPoint presentation? Oh yeah, so we're going to be, so it won't be posted today, but in about, I think it takes us about a week or so to get the recording technology all taken care of. So what we'll be doing is posting the PowerPoint alongside with the recording of this. It'll be on the TAACCCT Community of Practice, which you should be familiar with. If not, if you have any questions, let me know. But we'll also be posting it on other sites as well. We'll be letting you know once it's posted and how to access it. How about that? Yeah, okay. So we had another a couple different questions sort of related to the same topic. So I think Robin's just going to weigh in here on a different issue.
Yeah, I just want to say there are a few very specific questions about your grant and about understanding some processes related to procurement with your grant. And I would say to the extent we can answer those, we are today, but if we don't get to your specific question, we would like for you to follow up with your federal project officer, and the National Program Office will work, as Erica has said, to make sure that we get those questions answered.
So I have a quick question here from one of the attendees. This is Lauren, asking about the national evaluation logic model or theory of change that might be available, and asking about when evaluation reports might be made publicly available. So we didn't go into detail about that today. We had a lot of information to present, but when we have the website announced to you all, that's something we'll certainly have posted on there and have a lot more information, be able to provide you some more detail on that. And there will be reports from the National Evaluation Team from the earlier rounds. So, we'll be posting that information as well, and we can give the timeline on that as well.
Okay, I have one about some different questions about RCTs and experimental design. Okay, so the question is concerning TAA participants and veterans when it relates to random assignment. So I'm really glad, these are all great questions, by the way, but this one's really good because, we didn't specify that, but it does explain it does mention this in the SGA. So, we aren't able, so TAA participants, if they're coming to you, you are going to be surveying them, and veterans also. So you're not going to be randomly assigning TAA participants and veterans, and even if as you're planning your, if you are planning to do an experiment, if your third-party evaluation is planning to be experimental, there are definitely ways, and they should have experience, if they're a good evaluator with solid experience, they'll know how to work with you about how to set up a random assignment control trial, and to still make sure that you're still serving TAA participants and veterans. There's a lot of technical jargon that goes around that, but basically in a nutshell, that's what it is. So, really great question. Certainly want to make sure we're serving TAA participants and veterans, and we also will be taking that into consideration in our work, and certainly your evaluator absolutely should be taking that into consideration. So let's see, another question about random assignment. Okay. It's just basically about the difficultiness in educational settings on implementing random assignment. So part of the reason we brought in the team we did was they have quite a bit of experience in educational settings conducting evaluations, and from previous rounds we've seen a lot of great third-party evaluators with experience doing that. There will certainly be opportunities for you to learn and share from previous rounds. The other thing I just want to mention, I almost jumped in when Karen was talking about the impact study, but I'm glad this question came in because I can bring it up now. One other thing, we might doing, so the example she gave was having a control group, a treatment group at the college, and then potentially looking down the street or other services for a control group. Another thing we're going to be doing, so a lot of the previous rounds of grants, and from reviewing the 4th round of applications, you're also doing this too. So you're kind of ramping up, you already are providing services and a track or occupation. You're already offering that, and then what you're trying to do with the TAACCCT grant is build capacity and try new, innovative strategies to really reach out and empower these people that you're serving and get them, maybe a quicker certificate or try different learning styles and things like that. So one thing we could do is work with you to, randomly assign, and I'm just making this up, this is just off the top of my head, no decisions have been made yet, but what we could do is randomly assign them into the existing program that you're already running and the new program, and then we can kind of look at differences in that way, and that would be really powerful information for you to know, is it worth continuing to invest in these new innovative strategies, or how does that compare to what you already had? And so, that's one way to look at it. And we're going to be coming in with all perspectives and really being creative and thinking outside the box about how to really do a solid impact study that gets the information we want, but also works with the interventions that you're running and how it's operating on the ground.
I would just add to that. Thanks, Erica. This is Karen. That's part of what we'll be doing in our clarification calls and site visits, is learning a lot more about what are the other services that might be available, and to a control group, be it through your college or through others in the community. I also wanted to point out that everything that we do when we do come up with a study design, everything goes through our institutional review board, which is a independent body that reviews everything with an eye towards human subjects protections. We have an IRB. They'll look at everything and determine if what we're proposing is ethical. It's when we've worked with colleges in the past, we've also gone through their IRBs and submitted packages. So in terms of kind of the ethics of the experiment, that's always front and center in terms of what we're doing and what we're thinking about. And we'll take all of these things into consideration if we get to the point of working with you individually on an impact study.
Yeah, I just want to we're going to continue to answer a couple questions. Just want to do a time check. We realize it is 3:07. Boy, time flies when you're having fun talking about evaluation. But so we're going to be, we're going to continue to stay on and answer your questions. We're happy to do that, and we will continue to record this. But 3:15. Oh, we have to cut off at 3:15. But we still have some more time, and then but we recognize you might have to go or already had to leave us. But again, we'll keep recording and answering your questions. Okay, Lauren?
Sure. This is just a quick question to answer. There's a attendee on the line that's both a round 1 and round 4 grant recipient, and they haven't heard from the national team yet about their round 1 grant. And so we will be surveying your colleges. You're the lead grantee, and if you are part of a consortium, the college is involved this year before the end of your grant. So that's one way you'll hear from us. You can also email the TAACCT@urban.org email if you want to sign up for some of the resources we have for that grant round, and you'll make sure you get any announcements from us.
Okay, so there's a question about, I don't totally understand this question, so I'm going to take a stab at what I think it means, and please clarify through the question box if I'm wrong. But basically, you're looking for a copy of the logic model and sort of the conceptual framework that we're using to approach the national evaluation, and I think that's an actually excellent question. We have shared that in different webinars, but you know what, and it will be within the webinars that we posted online, but what we can do is just pull that out on its own and post it, because as you're developing your logic models or your third-party evaluators are developing their logic models, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, and we certainly encourage leveraging resources, so we'll go ahead and post that.
There's a question here about the slide with the evaluation design options where we focused on experimental and quasi-experimental design, but that we didn't talk about the last category about the outcomes-only study. And this question is from a grantee that has very small participant numbers, as I understand. So, we are very focused on experimental and quasi-experimental designs because they do yield the most rigorous evidence of the impacts of the approaches you are implementing. We do understand that there are some grants that have, a fairly small number of individuals that they are serving, and that an impact study isn't always feasible. We still encourage those who are looking at outcomes only designs to recognize that it will be, it's not the strongest evidence. It's we can only say so much. You can't attribute the outcomes to the intervention, and you can only say limited things about outcomes. But if you do have a way to benchmark what you are learning about the participants and their outcomes, if you can look at a national group who is similar and their educational or employment outcomes, just really looking at a different kind of counterfactual and be able to say whether your group of individuals that you've served have done well against a potential comparison, that's really helpful in being able to put what you've been able to do into the perspective of what might happen otherwise. It's still challenging in terms of the level of evidence, but I think it's a way that you can get a sense of how well your intervention did.
Okay, we've gotten several different questions related to the same issues around procurement of a third-party evaluator. They're really good questions. We did mention a couple things already about them, but just want to reiterate that if you feel like you still have a lingering procurement question, your SPO is a wonderful resource, and they'll get you in touch with, they might be able to answer your question, or they might even have to defer to the grant officer for TAACCCT. And also feel free to email TAACCCT, the TAACCCT DOL email address, TAACCCT@dol.gov.
Right.
So, feel free to. Certainly, this wasn't your only opportunity to ask questions, and we're always happy to help there. So. Okay, I think we've covered, at least the topics that came in questions. Certainly if you have other questions, let us know, procurement or otherwise. We look forward to working with you on the national evaluation, supporting your third-party evaluators, reviewing your plans and getting you feedback, and then working with you on the impact study. So, thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to working with you.